Hello, everybody. This is Mobile People event. And can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can. Probably the issue is on my side.
Yeah, that happens every time. Everything was go, and now, yeah. Okay, let's move on. So this is Mobile People event, and I think it's just doesn't want us to say that we are also hosting Apple Trees podcast, and therefore it tries to deal with the network connections and everything. So let's move on. Today, what our topic for the discussion is WWDC 24 and all of the technical announcements which were made. And we will go through all of these announcements, at least those which we consider quite important because there were like kind of many. We will go through all of those. And we will try also to guide you through all of the relevant links which you can follow, and those links will be also in the this episode description on YouTube or any other platforms which you might see this episode on.
But
While
let's
we are talking
see.
about that, yeah, but
Just be honest.
just quick
A
thing,
lot of
ask
a lot of
all the
changes.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask all the questions you have in the chat. We will go through too. So don't wait till the end of the episode. Put them there. We will go through those as well, and we can discuss all of the impressions of all of these announcements. So yes, Vladimir, what about the updates?
Updates, yeah. So there are a lot of them, but it's like quantity, not quality. And
Okay.
I cannot say that we have so many different new things that we want to talk about. No, we have them. It's okay. So thanks, Apple. So it's not like because previously on WWDC we got so many new things in iOS. We should spend whole summer trying to adopt all these new features to make our users happy.
Yeah, and this time it will be much easier, I think, and that's actually a good thing. And yeah, quick shameless plug here. If you want to read about all these updates, there is an Apple Treats news page. So subscribe to our Substack, and you will get all the information on all of the uh, Apple updates which happened during WWDC and all other Apple updates happening right now. So everything will be there, and we are actually using that platform to communicate all the things which are relevant for the developers, QA engineers, managers, and if you have anything to do with Apple platforms, like that will be a good thing to do, to subscribe to. And so let's maybe start with Swift. So that's one of the
It's
things which
so
you,
unexpected. We have
yeah,
Swift 6 coming from.
yeah,
So how many
and
years we have been waiting for this?
uh, it was a long time.
Two
So
or three,
yeah,
something
and
like this.
interestingly, one of the things which Apple says that this Swift 6 and specifically Swift 6 language mode might require you to do source changes. So it might break your existing projects, and that's because some of the warnings with the data race safety and other like related things will become errors in Swift 6. So be aware of that. This Swift 6 language mode is opt-in, so you are not getting that by default. So when you update and install new Xcode, nothing should like immediately stop working.
Let me correct you a little bit. So nothing changes for existing project. So
Yeah,
if you open existing Xcode project or existing package, everything will be fine. But for new projects, it's an opt-out feature.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's correct. So, well, I mean, that's usually the case with most of their features, but what you
Yeah.
need to remember that if you planning to migrate to like Swift 6 language mode, start enabling warnings related to the data rate safety, and to remind you, like these language modes mean that the compiler can compile your code in various dialects of Swift. So currently we have 4, 5, and 6. Like when Xcode 16 will be released, we will have a new language mode, and that will affect the way how compiler goes through your source code. So beware of that, and take a look on this session on WWDC. It contains a lot of relevant updates on how to make sure your projects are compatible with this language mode and what to do to fix those issues.
But
But
let's say what this is about. So
yeah,
this Swift 6 language mod is, I don't know, mostly 100% about new concurrency mode. So we had this Swift concurrency, which was introduced, I don't know, 2 years ago. And all these features with async await actors, they were pretty optional. Now, if you want to use these features, so yeah, one more thing. So, and no one forced you to do anything with the data races, with thread safety, etc. Now, Apple makes a lot of boundaries inside the language. So you cannot shoot into your foot just because compiler checks everything. So all these sendable types, hoping, etc., etc. So all this stuff, it's about thread safety. If you ever listen to our Apple Trees podcast, you know that I know where Apple take all these wonderful ideas from wonderful language called Rust. But this time I have to say that they didn't copy it just one to one. No, they made a lot of background work and background thinking how to deal with concurrency on their platform. And
yeah.
what we
And
have is okay.
so you mentioned one of the things I need to highlight here. So there is a non-copyable types, and there are a lot of enhancements in the language, and there is a specific session on non-copyable types. So by default, all I know like your value types will be copyable, which means that you can create a copy of the type by just assigning it to a new variable, and that might be okay for some cases, but it might be problematic. For example, if you're dealing with some system resources, one of the examples Apple provides is like file descriptors. When you open the files and you put that into your struct, then like when the struct gets destroyed, you potentially want to have your this file descriptor to be turned off or like closed, and you don't want to share that file descriptor between multiple structs. So there are a couple of things on how to deal with that, and
even between multiple threads, which is more
yes,
important.
that's another thing. Yeah, and this copyable thing is also like closely related to sendable types, which also have a lot of updates with that. So just go through all of the sessions which are related to data rate safety and new concurrency model. Familiarize with yourself with that, because well, I think that's if you didn't start working with that yet, or you're using that on a way like you define the task somewhere just to get your URL session, new APIs, and that's it. Well, I mean, it might be the time to start migrating to new concurrency in broader sense. So consider looking into sync sequences,
global
actors. Yeah, and that's not that hard actually. So it's a little bit of a paradigm shift, but it's something you can accommodate with. So it's not that not that bad.
So and Apple made a lot of stuff to make this transition easier for us. So this Swift 6 mode, it's okay. You can correct me because as far as I remember, for sure you can enable it per module.
Definitely.
But also, as far as I understood, you can also split it inside even one module. So you can have some regions where there are different types of concurrency modes. Or not?
You can import modules with the pre-concurrency modifier. So that's another thing which you can do, which my suggestion will still be like keep it module by module, because that will at least help you with your like mental model of what's happening. So you can have every module running on its version of the concurrency. Like you can have like Swift 5 language mode and like gradually migrate all of them to the Swift 6 language mode. And yeah, that probably will be still easier than to do anything there separately, I would say. Let's so what I think we might want to have a separate session just on this new concurrency, and maybe like open up Xcode and do a lot of stuff there. Let's maybe continue with the updates.
Yeah. We need to practice this by ourselves first before showing something.
Yeah. I mean, if you are using task modifier in SwiftUI, it's a good start. You're already using some new concurrency models. Like if you get yourself familiar with some of the new Apple APIs, which like use this new concurrency model, great, perfect. Then move on. Like see how Sendable works. See how non-copyable types work, and adopt them. Maybe even migrate some of your classes to actors if you consider them like being sendable. Again, sendable meaning you can pass this object or structure or whatever between the threads safely. Yes, so that's sendable. Essentially means that you can use the same thing between multiple threads and you can pass them. And by the way, the Swift 6 language mode also became a little bit more intelligent in terms of it can pass non-sendable types if you ensure that, if compiler can be sure that when you pass it to the other thread, this like existing thread will never access this object again. So there are a couple of things with this also things which are called consuming and borrowing and so on, and that also getting from Rust to Swift with new Swift updates. So check out the sessions, and I think what we want to have, there are a couple more things which might be interesting for you as a developers, and I will leave one thing which Vladimir likes to see, but I will start with something else. Now you can use typed throws. So I was reading this proposal long before it was accepted, and there were a lot of discussions in how to implement that, and I'm personally not happy with the implementation. So now the function, which like a throwing function, can have typed throw. So you can define a type for the errors it can throw. The problem is that there should be only one single type. Like you cannot have set of errors, and this error type also will be, well, I mean, the declaration is the same for the functions which are rethrowing. Like if you pass a closure, it throws, and then the whole function will rethrow the same type. And yes.
So, ever since I started doing something on Swift, we okay, when they introduced result type, we had mostly the same, not problem, but question, how to do this in AMS. So type enums inside. So either you don't want to handle these errors at all and you just want to show them to user as is,
Yeah.
or you need to do some stuff. And taking into account that now we have powerful macroses, a lot of stuff for code generation, it's
Yeah.
not so hard to generate this stuff automatically, because I know in Rust we live this way for quite a long time. Sometimes it's hard, but in general that's okay. You just need to get used to this.
I agree. What this thing also brings is that when you write your do catch blocks, you can now have exhaustive catch blocks. So you can list all the errors you catch, and there will be no like general catch them all block at the end, which is, I think, a good thing. If you if you consider errors as a mechanism of dealing with your code, so that's I would. By the way, if you don't use the typed throws, it will assume the general error type, which is general protocol for the errors, and it will work mostly the same as it was before. So these typed throws do not require you to update your codes and put like specific errors. But when you design new APIs, you might consider adding like specific error types, so you will at least limit yourself in understanding what kind of errors the function can throw, and it will be easier to deal with these errors.
This is good for package developers, because for library developers, since they now can just explicitly declare that this function, this class throws only this kind of errors. You have full set, have fun. You just need to iterate over it and check it.
Okay, and now I'll actually pass the word to you. Why that feature is so important. So
this
static
is
linking on Linux.
Big deal. So finally, so we need to talk here a little bit about other popular languages for Linux, for deployment on Linux, Go and Rust. Both of them support static linking. What that means? That means that we don't need to have all libraries somewhere installed on the system. I don't know, for example, the same way that now with this libswift, it's installed in the system. You don't need to embed it into the binary. So this is okay. This is good for let's say desktop machines like this. Why? Because you have a lot of different applications that uses pretty the same set of libraries. I don't know, OpenSSL, libswift, libc, etc., etc. So a lot of common. That's why we have these dynamic frameworks. For static linking, that means that everything, all dependencies, are embedded into your binary. So it's like a portable version of your binary. So if you build it for some specific platform, I don't know, Linux ARM64, it will work on any ARM64 Linux without any additional libraries. The second thing, that it doesn't link these libraries fully, like whole open set. Only parts that are required for your application. So it does a lot of stripping after linking this stuff. And going back to Go and Rust, so I don't know, outside of mobile development, Kubernetes, Docker, all this stuff, and people just have one container for one binary. Why should you install very huge libraries like OpenSSL, other libraries to your image, to your container, if you can just have this one, a small, not small, but binary packed with all things that it needs? So for me personally, this is very important, because I use this approach to deploy my different services on Rust. static binary into Alpine, which is 5 MB. So big, it's not very big for Linux. And that's it. So this is beautiful. And finally, now, Swift is part of this big server side family of languages. Finally.
Yeah, and by the way, Apple also had a couple of sessions in the last couple of years on Swift on server. So Apple now considers Swift as something which can be run on server. By the way, there are a couple of meetups happening like quite regularly on Swift on server, and
With
it's
Apple
not.
guys there.
Yeah, and like it's not just Apple getting there. And by the way, like if you think like, well, maybe there is one server-side framework for Swift, well, it's actually not. There are a couple of different frameworks now being developed and actively developed. Sadly, IBM dropped their, I think it was Kitura, right? But other frameworks are being actively developed, like Vapor, which is like probably the most popular, but there are a couple of other like Hummingbird and some more. And
You can build your own on top of Swift Neo.
Yeah.
It won't be easy, but this is possible.
Yeah, and interestingly, like we see that more and more businesses are open for server-side Swift. So we can't get into details here, but it is now a possibility, and there are there are like moments when we discuss those things, not unlike as just some things for the laughs, but rather like it's kind of serious things happening with the server-side Swift. So just saying.
For all this
consider
stuff,
that as well.
Apple now made a lot of progress in making Swift really like a full spectrum language. So now you
By the
can
way,
serve all your needs within one project.
Speaking of full spectrum, we will not give you a link here because it's probably like too early to do, but Apple was also showing how to run Linux on bare metal, like essentially microcontrollers and so on. So it's like embedded Swift, which is a subset of Swift, meaning that everything you build for the embedded Swift will run on the regular Swift, but not vice versa. So there are a couple of features being removed from the language in order to make sure that the binary will be smaller, the performance will be more adequate, and so on. So it's a very stripped down version of Swift which can run on microcontrollers. And Apple was even had a session on embedded Swift during WWDC, which doesn't mean that you need to drop everything and like start using Swift for those kind of stuff. And again, that's just a sign that Apple acknowledges that Swift is now language which can be run on some small things which I don't know, you can use it as like prototyping with microcontrollers. Then it can be run on like portable devices and mobile devices and desktops, and then it could also run on the server farms and clouds. So this language goes through all of those things. And as of now, I don't think Apple is promoting Swift WebAssembly, but it's there. Like it's not in the shape which it could be considered as a web language yet. But well, at least for now, we see that Swift is getting more and more attention from different areas.
Why Apple should promote this, since they do not actively contribute to this part? So
right, exactly.
It's on other guys and on our guests, let's say.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next
SwiftUI.
No, there is one more thing I would like to talk about, and that's kind of huge, and that's Swift testing.
Oh, yeah.
So we all know importance of unit tests, and I hope like our audience also knows importance of unit tests and does unit tests in their projects. The thing is, we were using old Objective-C framework XCTest for a long time, And yes, that framework was updated a little bit to support modern concurrency, like we have now async tests, and we have like expectations to deal with like asynchronous tests when you need to do some with the callbacks and so on. Yes, but it's old framework, and Apple now using power of macros to build a new testing framework. And there are 2 sessions on those. And by the way, it was not just announced on WWDC. It was announced in the spring, and we all knew it's coming. But now it's getting there, and it also has its own place near the XC test. So like Xcode has support for the Swift testing. There are a couple of limitations and restrictions in terms of how these things can do and what they cannot do. For example, the performance testing is not yet supported by Swift testing. And one more thing, so I was reading a couple of blog articles, and people saying that Swift testing is a little bit slower and sometimes like significantly slower than XC test, which is, well, understandable. Hopefully they will work on that and fix that. That might be coming because of extensive use of macros there. And but again, I kind of hope that macros are affecting performance only during the compilation time rather than the execution time.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like in this case there are some things happening with the Swift testing, but it's open source framework, and it's being created specifically for Swift. And I hope that will eventually fully replace XC test, and we will be using this. And if you look into those sessions, it's actually like kind of easy to migrate to that. Or there are no much of the mental shifts. So you don't need to invent totally new idea of like testing. Or, you follow similar things, but you structure your tests a little bit differently. You can tag them. You can group tests by tags, and like these tags can overlap and so on.
Different arguments for the same test.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of huge because you can run the tests with different set of data, the same test, and you don't need to write these tests like multiple times or do that only within one test. So if your test fails only with a specific set of data, you will have that specific error like for that data combinations and so on. So take a look on that. That's worth exploring. And if your project doesn't have any tests and you consider adding those, maybe instead of following XC test, you can look into Swift testing and start with that. So it's a good thing to do now, and it's simple. And if you start with just simple tests, there is not much difference. And then when you decide to add all of these complications with the multiple arguments and so on, then it will be easier to add.
Yeah.
So SwiftUI?
Let's go.
And like out of the box, there's not much change there, right? It's mostly polishing, mostly things which like simplifications, adjustments. So there are a couple of things happening with the previews. So you can use state within your previews. You can have preview modifiers which will help your views adjust for the previews. So it's again, there are a couple of things which will help you as a developer. I'd like to focus on a couple of things in SwiftUI. So first of all, that's the control for the transition animations, which you already could do that in SwiftUI. So you could do these transitions, but it required a lot of things like using much geometry effects, adding some a lot of logic on top of that. So you essentially needed to create both views and then just animate the transitions between those, and that was complicated. So now you can have more simplified ways of doing the transitions. Like, I don't know, if you have a grid of photos and you tap one and it zooms out for the full screen, that's essentially easy to do and that will follow the same navigation pattern. So it's not just the idea of animation, but still puts the view in the same navigation stack internally. So it's more logical to do that. There is a session on that, and it's kind of straightforward. There are a couple of new modifiers you can use. You match these things, and they essentially just work. Of course, it only works on the iOS 18. Well, I'm already started to lose the count of versions for these things. But anyway, like you probably won't be using it right now actively, but in a couple of years, that will be the way to go with the transitions.
By the way, I
Yeah.
think they should start naming their iOS versions similar to JetBrains. Just 2025.
Interestingly, you say that.
That's it.
They have names for these releases. However, they are internal, like internal. And there is one more thing. So we know like there's macOS 15 is called Sequoia, and there were previously they were cats, and then like it's California places and so on. But those are public code names for the macOS. There is also internal code names which are different, and we don't know those. Yeah. So, but if you go into internets and you Google good with the like good enough persistence or like a how would I say like if you Google good enough, you will
Just
find
do
all
it.
those. Yeah, just do it. Like I think even Wikipedia have those names there, so it's like it's there. Another thing which is changed, it's not just SwiftUI, it's a
UIKit
iPad.
as well.
Yeah, it's iPad thing. So tab bar on iPad can now have different look and feel. So instead of like those tabs at the bottom, which I think like they were not that nice on iPad rather than on the iPhone. So on the iPhone, it's like you
They were
expect them
designed
on the
for
bottom.
iPhone.
Yeah. So on the bottom of the iPhone, because it's like your finger, your thumb, it's close enough, you can tap it there. But why should it be on the bottom on the iPad? That was just because it was mimicked from the iPhone. So now it's put on the top the same way as it was in the Apple TV app. And it also now has a way of transitioning into the sidebar. So your tab bar contains number of elements, but then you can move it to the sidebar, and it will could have even more elements, and it could have sections which will be expanding and so on. There is something to do in order to support that. So it's not that like instantly easy to do, but it's not that hard. And again, it only applies to the iPad. It's not something to do with the iPhone. However, if you support iPad, I think it's a good way to support this new tab bar, and maybe also support the sidebar transitioning and so on, because that will be the way how other apps on the iPad will look like. And you probably would like to not to stand out too much with that. So consider
There are a lot of
exploring new tab bar.
apps that still using old tab bar and will use it for next 10 years. And so Apple supports this inside their SDK.
But by the way, we will see all tab bars with all the multi-platform frameworks. Let's put it that way, because they will need time to adjust to the new tab bars. Hopefully they will start creating this newer widgets for their platforms to accommodate the UI. But yeah, take a look. It's the only thing I would like to mention here. If you're using this new sidebar and you're adding some elements there, like consider how it will how users will access elements in the sidebar when it's not a sidebar but a tab bar. So there some elements will not be visible. So it's your responsibility as a developer to provide users with access to all features of your app, no matter how this tab bar looks like at the specific moment in time. There are also updates in UIKit. I'm not sure we will go through much of those.
Mainly they are just catching up with SwiftUI changes.
Yeah.
So they're driving these changes, I believe.
Yeah, by the way, I think I remember that in a couple of sessions, Apple was telling speaking about SwiftUI views, and they were talking about like views backed up by UIKit as opposed to other views. So I think we now see that in some cases, and I'm not sure, maybe that's when you add the animation group, sometimes these views are no longer backed by the UIKit views and they can be drawn by metal or something like that. So it's this transition from the like just being a wrapper around UIKit. I think it started and I think it's going there, and soon we will see. And like again, one thing I would like to mention: if your code relies on some kind of introspection and looking for the UIKit views when you use SwiftUI in order to customize something, it's good time to stop doing that because it might break soon, and if your whole app relies on that, well, that might be the problem when this view will change the hierarchy, or it will entirely do the views like I know in metal or something like that, because it's getting there and you might want to be prepared. So just if you're using SwiftUI, consider using SwiftUI. Like don't expect it to be like something UIKit there.
Yeah, they even don't show UIKit views inside UI inspector when you're just pausing in debugger mode. So yeah, it's far away from UIKit now.
Quick shout out to SF symbols. Not much new symbols, but importantly, they now have new animations. And well, it's all started as a collection of icons. Now these icons have animations. They have multiple stages, like I know Wi-Fi indicator can have like progression from 0 to 1. They have multiple colors, a lot of stuff. And so you can control, you can use a lot of these symbols in your app UI to like avoid getting some custom icons. Well, I mean, your designers probably will still be able to provide their own, but SF symbols now have a lot of things built in, and there are a lot of animations, a lot of customizations, and so on. Again, these are built into the system, so you need to make sure that the symbols you're using are present on the platform you're targeting. So you might need to remember that your new animations will not be available on the previous platforms and so on. So just keep in mind.
But if they decide to do static linking for SF symbols, that would be fine.
Well, I mean, let's get back to that. We had statically built Swift libraries. So it was a huge deal when they decided to make it platform dependent, and they were bringing this like, well, here you are. Now your Swift library is separate from your app, and now they said it's a good thing. We were all, well, it's a good thing in terms of size, but it's also a bad problem when you have to support. So the Swift is a part of the system, and you need to check for the Swift features now, not just for the SDK and platform features. Okay, couple more things. So one of the thing which was promoted, now your app can have new place to put your icons or actions, and that's Control Center. Well, it's actually not that hard to implement. You have now new widget for the Control Center, which is essentially the same approach, same workflows. You design your UI, you put it within this widget. I think it's control widget, and it has a couple of configurations, different sizes, and you can put your app features into Control Center, which I think if you want to be relevant and your app has something which users can control from that. I mean, I know you're making the something for the cars or for the smart home or whatever, like you do, or some things which do not require launching your app, then the Control Center might be a good thing to add some things there, some, I don't know, start a workout or whatever. And the example which they had like was exactly with something which you, I think they were using the work in the like kind of Pomodoro timer, so you can start your timer from the Control Center, and then the icon will switch and so on. It's if you used widgets previously, there is not too much new to learn. It's quite easy to work with. It's just another type of widget. And
Just
speaking of-
SwiftUI, that's it.
yeah, and that's like SwiftUI. And so consider that. And interestingly, this is actually much easier to implement because, like, yes, previous OS versions didn't have this support, but that also means that you can just add this feature with all the new SwiftUI features within this extension for the control center widgets. And speaking all these widgets and live activities, which are also, by the way, widgets essentially, we now have support. We now have support for live activities on Apple Watch. Well, I mean, I think most people expected that to happen because, well, why not? We already have all the notifications on your Apple Watch. Why not the live activities? So yes, they are there. And also we have support for interactive widgets on watchOS, which is essentially you can have a button which triggers some actions, some intent, and we will talk about intents in a bit.
So it's time to rewrite your to-do list app and
Yes,
add the interactive widget to your Apple Watch.
Yeah, you can explore that. I'm not sure how many Apple Watch apps people do now. I mean, it seems that the interest is not on the very high level right now, but it's still like if you support Apple Watch, this live activities is something which you can do if you even like not actively support Apple Watch, but you will provide users with the information of your app on the iPhone. And by the way, live activities, if you don't do anything, they will just work on Apple Watch. They might look not the way you want to, but they will work. So you might consider just adding some design considerations for the live activities on the Apple Watch. There is a session which essentially goes through exactly that. So how to make that working on the Apple Watch. We have a couple more things to talk about, but let's maybe talk about Vision Pro. We had an experience working on the projects with the Vision Pro, and there are a couple of things which were really interesting. So you were not able to use the outward-facing cameras on Vision Pro from your code. Yes, that was the limitation. Essentially, the limitation persists today in a way. But,
yeah, but sorry, let's stop here.
Yeah.
So before we go into these, world of enterprise stuff,
yes,
let's talk about normal stuff. So they are
okay.
continue extending APIs available to not window management, just in general. So you can now scan barcodes without
only with enterprise.
Within enterprise. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about enterprise. So why it's called enterprise APIs? Because it only works for the apps distributed through Enterprise Apple Developer Program, or if you do custom apps, which is like apps distributed through the App Store, but for the specific organization. So, and that will require you to get an entitlement from Apple. And in order to get that entitlement, you will need to describe your use case to Apple, and they will decide are you worth enough to like get this entitlement. What that means, there are a couple of enterprise APIs. So first of all, yes, you can have access to the cameras. So essentially, your app can see what user sees.
Not even see, but just process this in real time.
You can get that. You can process. You can stream that. Whatever you want. You can also share the whole content of the virtual objects as well. So you can just use not just cameras, but also the content of your app. So your app can receive the whole.
They call it like this.
Yeah. You can scan barcodes. That's another thing which you can do. And there is another thing which you can do is to control. First of all, you can use neural engine in your apps, which was previously not possible. So Vision Pro has neural engine, but it was used solely for the Vision Pro like internal components. So like visionOS was using that to deal with all the stuff. Now you can run your models on neural engine, and moreover you can tune the performance of that, so you can get more of that for your app. Again, only if you're an enterprise developer, because well, what Apple says is that might degrade the performance of the whole device. That might drain the battery if you're using it without the tethering to the charging and so on.
As far as I understood, they say that you cannot just say, I need access to neural engine all the time and do stuff. No, you request it as you need, and system says, can you do this? Do you have access to it or not? You can have access to CPU, to GPU, and to neural engine, and all this stuff is separate, and system decides if it provides you with this access at this moment or not.
Yeah. And previously, like you could not use neural engine. Now you can, and now you can request like some tuning, like more power to your models and so on. Okay. Another thing which actually we had a lot of troubles with is window management. So by default, visionOS, when you launch an app or you open a new window in your app, it places it in front of the user, like where user looks, there will be a new window, which is, well, kind of good. I mean, it's a good idea to so user will see that a new window pops up. But when you have an idea of how your windows should be arranged and you have zero control on that, that frustrates you. So now you can have something close to that. It's not that you can position your window like as you want, but you can put
not on visionOS. Yeah.
On visionOS, yeah. You can put those windows relative to your main application window, for example. So you have a window and you can put another window.
Trailing, top, bottom, yeah. So similar to what we had with ornaments, but now the same for Windows.
But those are windows, yeah. But again, that window still is a separate window, and it has everything which is needed there. Very.
They also have this ability to present a window as a utility window. Yeah. When it's similar to how keyboard works on visionOS.
Yeah.
So when it comes closer to you, somewhere where you can reach. This one is pretty cool. This one is so they did it more than I expected from them, I would say.
Yeah, and yeah, by the way, this is not an enterprise API. It's available for everybody, just in case. Okay, let's
just a couple of things about window management, because you can now not only present windows, but you can also push window. What it means that you have your main window, and for example, so they call it push. I would call it more like a present model presentation when it just overlay. But what it does, it simply replace your existing window with a new window of the same size and its content. And when you close this new window, it goes back to your previous window. So it's very similar to how navigation stack works, but pretty similar to overlays.
Again, those will be separate windows. That's another important thing to mention. Yes, that's a huge. And previously you could do something like that. So you could open the window, it will be in front. You work with that, close, and then but you still could see the previous window. And now it's like you will get back to that previous window as soon as you finish working with the new one. So
as you dismiss it.
Yeah.
And also you can now have toolbars for Windows, and I forgot how they called it, somewhere on top, like where you can just some kind of menu on top of window, which is also pretty cool. So you have now more abilities to more standard places where you can put something related to your functionality.
Right. Yeah. So RealityKit now, well, it's not available for the iOS or iPadOS. It was there, but it's now
upgraded.
Yeah, it now has, like, let's say, feature parity with the visionOS, because visionOS had significantly different RealityKit, and that also made it almost impossible to create an app for the Vision Pro and iPad with the similar experiences. now you can have much closer experiences for the iPadOS or iOS and visionOS. So the Reality Kit APIs are aligned a little bit. Of course, it's like still different things. So because like you have different ways of interacting with things on the Vision Pro, but it's still much closer, and you can have similar things like portals or whatever, which you could have on the
at least you can have this, I don't know, reality view and
Yeah.
entities inside it. So which
Yeah.
is much better now, and this API is much comfortable to use in comparison to old Swift, not Swift, but UIKit based.
Okay, quickly going through interesting new APIs. Translation API, which is, well, you can translate text. And there are a lot of people arguing that what they did is actually a bad thing, because all the translation APIs are now matched with your SwiftUI view lifecycle. You cannot initiate the translation session manually. You need to start it from the translation task assigned to a view, which is kind of, yeah, I'm also a little bit thinking that's maybe they will fix that. But essentially what you could do, you can use Apple's translation services to translate content from different languages, and it will use either on device or their cloud translation things. But there are no rate limiting as far as we know so far. There are no payments. Like, I know if you use weather, for example, there are some like requests which are free and then you need to pay for that. There is nothing like that. So it's a maybe a good thing to have. And it should be used probably for the user generated content rather than for your UI app elements. Like it's a, well, I mean, considering how it works, maybe you can build your, I don't know, communication app with somebody else, and you can just use Apple's translation services if you find them suitable for your use cases. So
in general, I would say that it's okay to, so you can just warn users that, yeah, we have this option for you to translate whole UI to your native language, but we cannot 100% guarantee that it will be okay. Just and this is good to give this opportunity, because I don't know, as a person who lives in Lithuania, a lot of applications even doesn't have any language except Lithuanian, which is okay for me now, but me 3.5 years ago was terrified by this.
Yeah. Okay, Finance Kit. I don't think we will see much of our audience building something with that, but it provides you an option to access your accounts in Apple Wallet. As of now, I think those are only limited to Apple Card and Apple Savings account, but we will see how it will progress. You get access to the accounts, to the transactions, and many things. And you will need a special entitlement, which probably will be much harder to get, because that's kind of really important information.
So
yeah, but they provide you with all of the APIs and so on, and like the APIs are quite simple. So you query the accounts, the transactions, and so on, and some of them could be in aggregated versions and so on. If you deal with some contact information, so if you want to get an address book entries, there is a contact access button, which is essentially you can get, without getting access to the whole address book, you can ask the system to provide you with some information on the contact, and there will be a standard picker running outside of your process, and you will be returned back with the information if users select something. Also, users can now, if you request access to the whole address book, users can now limit to specific contacts, and you will not get access to the full address book in that case. So be aware of that, and my personal recommendation is
similar to photos.
Yeah, don't get users' contacts or require them to share them, because that's a really bad practice, I think. And yeah, quickly, like last things, I think we are running out of time, and let me maybe go through Apple Intelligence. So Apple, yes, they announced their own AI and their own version of how to what is AI. So it's Apple Intelligence. Most of the things do not require anything from you, and your app will get access to those tools like instantly. For example, writing tools, which is essentially access to the text manipulation tools. If you use standard controls, you will get those tools for free, so they will be available. If you create your own text editing controls, there are APIs to provide the buttons. So you are not getting access to the tools themselves, but you can provide, you can show the UI for users to trigger those tools.
Keyboard. So we don't have access to keyboard, but
it's essentially the same things. Yeah. The same goes for the Genmoji, but what I would like to highlight here, it's not that we need to support something specifically. So these things are actually images, so they're not part of the Unicode. Therefore, if you use standard text controls, you might need to store text in like a rich format which supports images, because these things will be actually images embedded into the text, and it's not just the Unicode characters, but they will look like those. So again, if you use standard text controls and you deal with the text in like rich text format, any kind of relevant rich text format which supports attachments, you're fine. If not, then well, either you will not be supporting that, which probably still okay, because I hope there will be not too many these Genmojis flying around, but we'll see. And there is another thing. So there is a new image editing stuff like the playground, image playground. In order to support that, there is a just a image picker, specific image picker with the playground, and you can, if your app, like I don't know, you can assign an image to the profile picture. You can show like library access, file access. You can also add this image playground, so the user will design their own profile picture using the Apple's image playground. You can do that. I mean, it's not a bad thing to do. Why not allow users to play with that things, and that will make your app more AI. Like if you want to have that.
You can sell this to your investors.
Yeah. So just keep in mind. And in order to make your app actually AI compatible, so
Apple Intelligence compatible,
yeah. New Siri will come much later, yes, but I think it's a good opportunity for you to adopt the new app intents. They are not new; they like many years already on the platforms. But if you support those, the new Siri and generally Apple Intelligence will be able to catch up with your app and will be able to do a lot of stuff. Like on the users will be able to talk to your app through Siri, and again, that also has the benefits of adding your app into shortcuts, which essentially will, some more technically savvy users might create a shortcuts which involve your app, like some data will come to your app, it will be processed, and then it could go to somewhere, and so they will rely on your app more, and therefore you will be more like the users will keep using your app because it fits into their workflows. So that's not that hard to implement. There is a migration guides from SiriKit intents to the new app intents. And by the way, if you still use SiriKit intents, that's still okay. They are still supported, but you might consider to migrating to the app intents. And that also has the benefits of easier development, like it's app intents are actually easier to work with, and there are, like, these two sessions will guide you through some of the things which you might want to know when you want to support app intents and integrate with the new experience.
By the way,
experiences
on
which will be there.
On your HomePods, do you use any custom shortcuts?
I typically use HomePods for regular things like turning on lights, turning off lights, playing music, doing something like that. Or sometimes, well, I mean, I might ask for the weather, but it's usually like, I already see that it's like sunny there and it's hot there. That's it. So it's
It's California stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not winter.
Because for me, I have my stereo player in my living room, which is collocated with my kitchen. And sometimes when I stay near my fridge, I see that I don't have something there. I want to shout, "Hey Siri, just add this to my shopping list." And
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's also the thing. So timers, yes, that's also could be the case, especially in the kitchen when you like need to do something. Yeah, the last topic, and that's actually not too much new there, but I want to highlight this because we work with that. So if you're still not using Xcode Cloud, consider that. I mean, it actually works. It's a pretty nice CI/CD tool, and it provides you with 25 hours of compute per month per program. So like all the projects within the program will share that 25 hours for free. So if you have your paid Apple developer program, you already have that. So you can use that 25 hours of compute on Xcode Cloud without paying anything. And for Apple projects, they're
available for $50, right?
Yeah, so you can buy more, and that will like extend your processing time if you want to. But essentially, what I'm trying to say that the start doing that. It's easy to set up. It works. It can run tests. It can. There are a couple of things which you can do in a more sophisticated way. So you can have your webhooks. You can have your some other triggers and so on. So it's a worth trying, and we tried that on one of our projects, and it actually worked, and we exhausted all the hours we had, and then we a little bit limited our interest to that. But we actually consider to like do more, like actually run tests on the pull requests and so on. It's actually a very, very powerful thing to do, and its integration with Xcode is actually quite nice. So you see a lot of stuff there, and you can check the results, and you can get back to your source code. So just check the session and check the previous year sessions on Xcode Cloud. That might give you some interesting ideas.
Okay, we missed all the comments.
Yes, let's see what we have in the comments. Let me bring this particular comment. So in order to, so yeah, we're talking about this whole thing, which is app intense, and how to make sure that your like product owners, product managers, I do not have a direct answer to that, but maybe what we could do, like all together, we can check the apps which are already there and using them, and maybe show that these apps, the apps which integrate with Siri, the apps which integrate with the control center, the apps which provide widgets, the apps which provide watchOS experiences or live activities, they are more visible to users, and users more likely to interact with them, and they more likely to keep
Spend
the
more
app.
time
because,
there.
Yes, because there is a thing. There is a app acquisition fee. So you need to spend some money, so you will get some user acquisition fee. Yeah. So it's like not the fee, but like costs, user acquisition costs. So you need to pay some money. Sometimes you just need to spend your efforts in order to bring new user to your app. But then you need to keep them. And if your phone has hundreds of icons, and some people have tons of apps, they will not find your app anymore. And you can start sending them push notifications like, yeah, get back to your app, and they will just turn them off because you like made them uncomfortable with those, and that happens. But if your app has other presences, like, hey, you added control center shortcut, you added something to the lock screen, you're present on the Apple Watch, you can do something from Siri, and it's not just launch my app, but rather something which is like, well, yeah, that's kind of nice if I can ask Siri to do something, and it with your app, and then your app is still relevant, and the user's like, oh, okay, I have this thing, and they will use it more. and like depending on the app, like how it works and what's the business model about that app, that might bring more money and keep it relevant. So
It's very, very, very long piece of advice. My advice will be pretty easy. If your product managers do not understand why you should be good citizen on the platform, run, just run.
yeah, I'm just more optimistic about product managers. They will see like, well, we have I don't know, web, we have Android, we have iOS, and they are the same. Like that's the common understanding for many managers. Well, they are not, but well, the people
Flutter.
will say that.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yeah, that's something. But again, if you use this platform features properly, your app will be more relevant. If you have like this app intents, the system will suggest them. For example, I use Starbucks app, and from time to time I see the action in the when I pull up the search, there will be in like action. Yeah, you can order in Starbucks, and there is a direct action. I tap it and I will get to the specific place, and that's it. So that's just not that hard to do, and they did it, and I know that I have that app. So that's something which can other apps could do. Let me again. We are running out of time. Let's quickly go through all of the other questions. Can we use translation instead of UI localization? Well, no. I mean, you can run that and do, but those are synchronous APIs, and you definitely don't want to have your app localized by the static model embedded to your phone, because you will probably see the results which you are not wanting to see. There will be problems with the words. There's some words because like UI label is too short to be translated properly, because there are words that can be translated differently depending on the context. So please don't. Hire somebody, use some more specific service, do proper localization, respect your users. That's what I'm maybe trying to say. That's quite important things to do. Okay, there are a couple of things in regards to the intents with the specific phrases. Yes, new app intents, they can vary the phrase. You can provide a couple of synonym phrases, and the Siri itself will be able to add some more customizations to the phrase. And that's already there in the current releases. So if you migrate current app to app intents, even with the current platform, Siri will be much more useful rather than using SiriKit. So you don't need to memorize the specific phrase, and it will still work. The only thing which is important, that your activation phrase should contain the name of your app. That's a requirement for the app intents. So consider that. There are sessions on app intents on this year WWDC and on previous years, and they will go through that, how to properly design the activation phrase and how it should work. Okay, we are almost we're a little bit over the time, but that's I think okay. Thanks everybody for your questions, for your participation. That was very interesting session. I think you can put your comments to this video or audio. I don't know. We might release this as the audio episode of something. We're not sure, but we'll see. I think this was useful. We will put all the links to the sessions and to the Swift proposals to the description of this video or podcast episode. We'll see. And with this, I think we could only do one more thing. Let me do that here. We need to recommend you to subscribe to Substack, and there will be also some links to the podcast, and there will be some links to something else, and there will be news. They are actually quite up-to-date news on everything happening on the Apple platforms. Thank you very much from the Mobile People community, and yeah, see us on our next events, which will probably happen soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great one.